I'd like to call the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting to order. First off, we'll do a roll call. Nolan, would you do the roll call?
Sure. Mayor Noes,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks,
Here.
Alderperson Almacher,
Here.
Barry,
Here.
Blackwell,
Here.
Dunn, McGee,
Here.
7 present.
We have a quorum. At this time, I'd like to call to the podium Reverend Tom McGurdock, who will offer our invocation and lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Holy One, in this time of Easter, we celebrate the possible and the impossible. We celebrate new life, new hope. We ask you to come, pour your Spirit into this place, in this community. Bring the healing we need, but bring also the wisdom as we as a people walk together, build, grow, mature together. Come, we ask you, bring your Spirit here this day. We pray always in your holy name. Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Murdoch. Well, as I look around the dais this evening, I notice we have a new member among us this evening. Miss Haley Rich is our honorary alderman from the Mayor's Youth Council this evening. I'm going to ask our representative to the City School Board, Miss Blackwell, to introduce Miss Rich.
Yes.
Miss Blackwell?
Yes, so this is Haley Rich. She is a senior this year at THS. She's 8th in her class. She's the captain of the color guard. She's the student council historian, which I reminded her might mean that she has to plan the reunions from now on, which is always one of those things they never tell you till after you get voted into that. And she is looking at going to Leeds University in England for electrical engineering. She is just one of those students who's clearly a competitive student, really engaged in the community and in her schoolwork, and I'm excited to have her here tonight.
And I understand, Haley, that you even like math.
Yes, sir.
Well, we appreciate you being with us tonight. I believe you're on the Mayor's Youth Council also, and we certainly do appreciate you are an alderman on the Mayor's Youth Council. Well, you are an honorary alderman tonight, so we appreciate having you here this evening. This time we have an employee of the month that we would like to recognize. I'll defer to Ms. Moody.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to recognize for Employee of the Month, Miss Nina Abbott. She works with both our planning and building codes divisions, and she was nominated by a coworker from another department who said, as a permit technician in building codes, Nina is a main point of contact for citizens and developers in our community, and she provides a high level of customer service on a daily basis. Nina takes her job responsibilities personally and makes every effort to find a resolution and be responsive. Nina is an excellent representative of the best qualities of a city employee. During periods of transition, she's been an anchor in the department, and through her dedication to the job, she's made invaluable contributions to the city. And I would certainly echo that. I think that she has one of our most difficult jobs, having observed her on many occasions, taking walk-in customers, answering the phone, responding to emails, handling permits, and then always doing so with just grace and patience. And then also, having worked a lot with developers, I know they value and trust Nina's input and advice and call upon her by name. They want Nina when they call the department. So I very much appreciate her, and also just would add that she has been with the city over 10 years. And so I would echo that she, just as this says, she's the anchor of the department. she's provided that consistency through the years, been a consistent face for the department, and just really look forward to holding on to her for many more years, I hope. And so let me introduce Robert Taylor, Director over the Building Codes Division, and also bring Nina up.
I don't know that I could add any more to what was said, but I echo everything that was said. Nina, I've known you a long time, we've worked very well. I don't know what else I can say that wasn't said.
Oh, good. And then would you like an opportunity?
It was very kind words. It was very unexpected. I mean, I did just celebrate my 12th anniversary with the city and been through a lot of changes, but a lot of very good changes. Our current support staff is very, very supportive of everything that's been going on in our office. And I come to work every day to do a job that you pay me for, so I don't expect to get this kind of acknowledgement, but it is very welcome, and I do appreciate that very much and look forward to many more years.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I just want to emphasize, she is great to work with, and I like what she said. She plans on working many more years because we couldn't do it without her.
And Mr. City Coordinator, Mr. Brooks, if you would, while you've got your camera tuned up, let's get a picture of there with Miss Haley Rich as our honorary alderman as well. Now over by the flag.
Stinking adorable.
It's too much.
Thought I had it all in my head, but that's.
Congratulations, Haley. And now at this time, we do have a proclamation that I've been asked to present, and it's my honor to present. It was asked for Mr. Jack Hogagian. This is a recognition of our military and veterans caregivers. They're referred to as our hidden heroes. Whereas the series of wars which our nation has been engaged since World War II has resulted in 5.5 military and veteran caregivers who are parents, spouses, siblings, friends, and caring for those who are wounded, ill, or injured, who have served our nations as documented by the 2014 RAND Study Commission by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And whereas the daily tasks of these caregivers and veteran caregivers can include bathing, feeding, dressing, caring for the injuries of the wounded warriors, administering medications, providing emotional support, caring for the family at the home, and working outside the home to earn essential income. And whereas the nation provides multifaceted supports to our wounded, ill, and injured veterans and service members through the public and private philanthropic resources, but their caregivers receive little support or acknowledgement. And whereas most military, veteran caregivers consider this challenging work that to do is simply carrying out their civic and patriotic duty without realizing that they are, in fact, caregivers and do not identify themselves as such. And whereas we wish to recognize and support those who are serving in these vital roles throughout the nation and in our own community. So now therefore be it resolved that I, Ray Norris, Mayor of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee, by virtue and the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim that we support and recognize our military and veteran caregivers and encourage all citizens to support our military families and veteran caregivers in our community. Signed, Ray Norris, Mayor. This time, Mr. Jack Hogagian, if you would come forward, please. Up by the flag, and we'll get a photo op. Jack, I do really appreciate you bringing this attention to it. Very, very noble. Feel better?
Yeah, but
Anything that you would care to add, you have the podium.
I'd like to thank the mayor and the board and the city on behalf of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation for, endorsing this. Like the mayor said, there are 5.5 million veteran caregivers in this country. A lot of them go unnoticed, and I think a lot of people assume when a veteran is wounded in war or through their service, they're going to be taken care of, and a lot of times that isn't true. I think I had the great privilege when I lived in North Carolina of working with Senator Dole, who was our senator in North Carolina. And of course, her husband, Senator Bob Dole, was severely wounded in World War II. And, from that, she took away the fact that a lot of people sitting in Walter Reed trying to recover are really dependent on donations for a lot of their clothing and personal effects. So I really do appreciate you all doing this, and of course we have a long military history here in Tullahoma, and I encourage everyone to look out for their veterans, but also those people that are caring for those veterans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hogagian. We appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to open the floor to any citizens who'd like to make a comment to the board. So if there are citizens' comments, please come forward at this time. Your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Fran Gray, a native of Tullahoma. I live at 121 Autumn Lane, Tullahoma. I have the privilege of working with Alzheimer's Tennessee. On May 8th, we will be holding our 3rd annual Purple Olympics. And we are very honored to tell you that Congressman Jim Cooper will be with us. Jim has just recently lost his wife, Martha, to Alzheimer's disease. Martha was diagnosed about 9 years ago and kept up a brave battle until February when she succumbed to her disease process. But Jim is going to come. He's going to carry our torch for part of the walk around the gym floor at THS, and he's going to offer a few words about their experience, their journey with Alzheimer's disease. Now, I would invite everyone here to come and welcome Jim, encourage him, and encourage any and all persons who are involved in caring for a loved one with any form of dementia. That's May 8th, Tullahoma High School gym. And we will have our opening ceremony at 10 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Is there anyone else? If not, we'll move into our reports from the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And we'll start, let's start in the middle with our Mayor Pro Tem. We'll start with you today, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last meeting, I hadn't had any scheduled specific board meetings, but it's been a busy Easter season. So we had a highly successful Easter egg hunt, and we provided eggs for that, but we were unfortunately out of town, so I didn't get to dress up as an Easter bunny. So thank you for hosting that. And all those that work behind the scenes, I know that it just doesn't come off, there's always people that help. So I think that was a very great happening. Hadn't met with Duck River, hadn't met with TUB. That'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'd like to give a shout out to the people of St. Vincent. We support some missionaries from our church down there, and they're undergoing, their volcano is erupted. A big eruption on Friday, then another one this morning. So just say a little prayer for those people. And a natural disaster in a poor country already, where you get up every morning and sometimes even on the best of days you're worrying about how to get to town, what you're going to eat, and if you're going to have electricity. And when you face a natural disaster such as this, I've been in contact with them on 3 or 4 occasions, and you could hear concern in their voice. So sometimes unless you've been away and done mission work in a poor country, in a third world country, you don't realize how good we have it here in Tullahoma. So I'm thankful to live here and blessed to live here. You know, we got it made compared to a lot of people, and we need to remember that. As always, I would encourage you to shop locally. We like your tax dollars. If we have your tax dollars, we hopefully will be able to, you know, pave the roads and fix some of the water issues and different things that need to be done to make this city a great city. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Alderman McGee.
As Mayor Pro Tem Blanks mentioned, the Easter egg hunt was very successful. We had 8,000 eggs. Over 500 people attended. I wasn't able to attend the TAEDC meeting that was held the beginning of this month due to, I had to take my grandkids to school, so it was a little early. But I would like to thank the following organizations for donating to the egg hunt. I would like to thank the citizens of Tullahoma, the City of Tullahoma, Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, Tullahoma Parks and Recreation, South Jackson Civic Center, Minuteman Press, Masters of Ceremony, Joe Denby, Tullahoma Daycare, Shorter Chapel AME Church, Credit Central, Papa John's Pizza, Board and Brush in Manchester, Action Graphics, Tullahoma Fine Arts Center, The Good Samaritan, Communications, Sonic, Tullahoma Kiwanis Club, T-Town Smoothies, Chick-fil-A, We Buy Houses, Girl Scout Troop 2163, and Tullahoma Centennial Women's Club, and did I mention Tullahoma Fine Arts Center. Also, I would like to thank Alderman Armacher and Alderman Blackwell for volunteering and helping me during the Easter egg hunt. I did also get a chance to go see Henry Cho at the South Jackson Civic Center. He is hilarious. I really enjoyed his show. I would like to thank my committee for helping me as well. And also I want to give a shout out to Lowe's. I attempted to do a do-it-yourself project, and I was going to make a bench out of cinder blocks and 2x4s. So I placed an order online. They emailed me and told me when it was ready, so I went to pick it up. And I saw the cinder blocks, and so I asked them, you know, where were the pieces of wood that I had ordered. They said it was on top of the cinder blocks. So what I ordered were like paint mixing sticks. And the young man, the sales associate, his name was Corbin, bless his heart. He wanted to laugh, but he didn't. He sort of looked at me and I said, you know what, it's okay to laugh. And he did. But then they cut me the right wood, so I was able to finish my bench. So I just wanted to give Corbin a shout out at Lowe's. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman McGee, I've got to digress here just a little bit. But yes, you did attend the Henry Cho show, comedian show. And I'll point to Alderman Amacher as well. And the two of you participated in the show. You were part of the act.
Oh, yes.
And it was enjoyable to see you enjoying that show. So I think you added a lot to it, so thank you for doing that. And I wish I could have been there to see the cinder blocks.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Alderman Barrett.
So first, I want to thank Alderman Dunn for our
I'm
gold pens, but I was in a rush getting ready, but since we last met, I became an uncle again. My perfect little niece, Avery Elizabeth. While I was rushing to do, I'm a single guy, so all my clothes that I wear fit in the wash at the same time. Everything I own. Enjoyed this pen as well. I spent hours with rubbing alcohol and threw away a bunch. But since we last, but thank you. Check your pockets. I became an uncle again, so that was awesome. I got to attend the National Vietnam Veterans Day. Thank you for letting me do that in your place. And that was amazing. And the thing that always sticks with me anytime I go to these events are the stories about when they came home, and how they were greeted, in not a kind way. And so I think it's always touching. Touching is not the word, but that's the story that always sticks with me. And so it's incredible that we had the opportunity to recognize them. This Thursday at 6 o'clock at D.W. Wilson, I'll be holding an organizational and brainstorming meeting for Get Fit Tullahoma to help kind of get that kicked off and some forward momentum on that. I want to thank Public Works. I had gotten a picture from one of the signs. I don't know what happened, but somebody took out all the signs right there in the viaduct. But they were able to coordinate. I sent that in the afternoon, and by the next morning, I got a picture from the lady whose property was on. Thank you. So thank you for that quick action on that. I spent this Saturday and Sunday playing in the rain, walking out in the rain. We had gotten some emails, and I told them I'd stop by, and so I decided since I was already soaked, I'd make a day of it. And I'm looking forward to us having further conversations on some of the storm water. I went and saw about 20, 25 people this weekend and had several other phone calls. Some are issues that we just can't do anything about. But there are some that we can take a look at, and I hope that that's something we make a priority. I'm really excited about Friday and the police station. That's amazing. We got to hold a small hiring committee meeting there for the comm center board, and it was exciting to actually get to use that building, and that's Friday at 11, I believe, so that's really exciting. So I got, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I feel like this is...
Very good, thank you. If you'll, I think you could also incorporate that Pin in the Washer Act into the Henry Cho show next year as well.
I was going to take pictures of it, because it's just, it's amazing how much ink
Bless your heart.
is in this little pen.
Alderman Almager.
Okay, I'm going to start with my small business shout out. Go ahead and, shop local. Seller Surplus, really cool place, lots of good deals. Bought a TV stand there. I love to dig and that kind of thing. And so if you've never been, 209 Northwest Atlantic Street, they're open Tuesday through Saturday, 9:30 to 5:30. And they get a lot of really cool things. So shop local, go to Seller Surplus. Since we last met, I did participate in our egg hunt and assisted Miss Cernobia with that. She had a great turnout. Worked really hard that day, got sunburnt, and then went to the beach and got more sunburnt. And my shoulders they're getting ready to peel. I can feel it, but the burn is not there. You can't physically see the burn, but for some reason I still feel the burn. And the turnout was amazing. Cernobia with a bullhorn out there telling those kids to go. Man, I love the shot that the newspaper got and everything. I kept going over there and I said, "You're gonna talk into the bullhorn." So she did a good job. 312 prizes, I think we put together. Rupa and I headed up putting the prizes together, and we really enjoyed helping out with that. So good job, Cernobia. Thank you for everything that you do. We had a tourism council meeting last week, and if you guys wouldn't mind, I'm going to actually get some assistance in this because they can do it better than me, to kind of update us on the tourism council. And I would love to hear your announcement to the tourism council as well on your project that you're working on, if you'll join him as well. So if you don't mind.
Sure. Great. Thank you, Alderman Amacher, and our partners at TUA will hopefully have our website here where we can all see it. So we'll just give them a minute.
There you go.
Oh, here we go. Very good. Thank you. All right. We're making progress.
While he's doing that, also want to give a shout out to some family. Lexi Almacher Phillips, I'm sure everybody's read that over the past couple of weeks. She's a cousin of mine who is now the Associate Master Distiller at Jack Daniels. And so the Almacher women right now, we're really applauding her and her efforts, and my whole family has been celebrating and just calling her, and she's really passionate about what she does. And they have on the tourism website, they gave her a shout out on this new website that we have that he's going to get ready to show you. So while he's getting that up, I'm going to keep talking just to save time. A couple of concerns from citizens. I just want to briefly mention that to the rest of the board since this is the time to do so. I too have had many complaints of water runoff issues, and most of the complaints I have were generally on the Avoca Riley Creek side of town, out like Parkway, but I had a complaint this time that was pretty much on the Franklin County side of town, but still Tullahoma city limits out on Old Estill Springs Road. That was backing up into where those new the subdivisions are back in that area, and so had somebody question about that. Miss Tammy Luna reached out to me about loving that we're doing a trash pickup day. And she said that one of her biggest concerns is about the litter in Tullahoma right now, and that it just seems like our streets are a whole lot trashier than they used to be. And I think part of that might be because we don't have a street sweeper like we did many years ago. That helped some of it. And so I would like to continue to talk. I know at one point, I'm not going to mention the donor, but I think Ms. Moody had mentioned to me that we may actually have a donor who might buy us a street sweeper. So going to continue to talk with her and see if we can't reach out and maybe get a street sweeper back. That would be really awesome if we didn't have to buy it. Encourage everybody to come out to our community litter pickup day, Mr. Bear. And also that individual said that Cobb Road was an area that she personally goes out and picks up every weekend. And so wants to encourage the board to remember to try to do our part, and would love to see signage in Tullahoma, do your part, don't litter, just some encouragement signs maybe placed around different parts of town where we're seeing a lot of litter. I'm going to turn it over now.
Thank you. We finally have the website up on the screen, so that's great. We can get started. Just to give you a little context, the Tourism Council has been working to develop a series of photo assets that we've got, and we previous project, we created a brochure, and we're able to get those in welcome centers. And then this year, under the leadership of Alderman Ogmacher, we've got a new website that we're going to be launching this week, and it's called experiencetullahoma.com. And you can see it on the screen here, and I'll just scroll down and let you see, but this is the first time that we've ever had our own tourism website to market the area. So the kind of what they call the hero image at the top there is our kind of our biggest tourism draw in terms of the museum at Beechcraft. And it's going a little too fast with it. Hang on, let me see here. But you can kind of get the idea. There's we have to eat, shop, and stay. And then as you scroll down, experiences, local destinations, and a travel blog. There is a video here, which you might have seen. It's also going to be updated. I believe it's going to drop on Friday, so there'll be a new Tullahoma video. Destinations, and so again, you can see the Tullahoma George Dickel there. While we all know the Lynchburg story, George Dickel is here in our home, and there's always the controversy there. So, but we've got to love them both. Anyways, keep on rolling through, and as you get down, we'll get dining. I love that picture there of the greetings from Tullahoma. Everybody know where that is? I think most people know where that is.
Vanelli's.
Yes. And so there are a list of the dining places that you can eat, shopping, and again, there's another nice photo of the caboose. When you get to your list of shopping, and keep on going down, stay the night, which is really what we want people to do, is try to come and spend more money, stay the night, and get those hotel, motel taxes going. And then, of course, there's regional experiences, Jack Daniels and the Whiskey Trail. And we really want to position ourselves as the heart of the Whiskey Trail and really capitalize on that. Again, I don't want to take up too much time unless there's some questions, but I do just want to show you a few other items on this and how it connects back to the state. So this is in partnership with an organization called South Central Tennessee Tourism Association. And they're connected up through the state. I'll just want to switch the screen.
Which Daniel and I both are on that board as well. So,
Yes, and you're on those committees. And
yes.
the
We're on different committees, but we're on the board.
Excellent. So, I can't grab the microphone.
Want this one?
So this is the back end of the website, and the reason I just want to show it to you is just a couple of things. We can now start, anybody that's has a destination in Tullahoma can submit articles here that get blasted out across the state and other media through the article submission. And there's a lot of other great tools here, but under community content, the great thing about this is now all of our content is housed out here for all of our partners, well, anybody who really wants to use it. And then when I put my glasses on so I can see. Apologize here.
Great.
Come on now.
There's one over there. I can't see that one.
Okay, so what you were seeing there was the back end too, where we can add and take away any businesses that we need to put in there, dining, hotels. But this is the collection of all the local photos that we have. So as you can see, it's pretty chock full of great looking photos. And that's available out there on the web to anybody who needs to maybe market Tullahoma. And then finally, I just want to show you, this is the state site, and as you go to the state site, they have a tab that's called Plan Your Trip, and as you navigate down into the regions, when you get to the South Central region, you click on our area, then it pushes people to this new website.
Oh, good.
So we'll be getting clicks from the state website.
Yeah, I thought this was really cool. I thought y'all would want to know about it and
Yeah.
to see it, so.
So if people wanted to submit their business, they would go to that website and put an article on
They
there?
would need to send me an email, yes.
They would send to Winston Brooks? an
wbrooks
email about-
@tullahomatn.com.
Okay,
.gov.
thank you.
Any
And then,
questions? Go
in
ahead.
the Tourism Council, not to cut you off, but in the Tourism Council meeting, we also had a big announcement. So if you would like to step up and again introduce yourself, I know everybody should know who you are at this point.
I am a graduate intern with Jennifer Moody. My name is Jordan Wilkins, and so one of the projects that I'm currently working on is a program called Tennessee Music Pathways, and that's through the Tennessee Department of Transportation that was started under Governor Haslam. And so Tennessee Music Pathways, as Winston was talking about a trail, so this is statewide, and there are certain criteria that a local town has to meet in order to get one of those, and one of those is to be a birthplace or hometown of a country music singer or a venue, and it's just by coincidence that my favorite country music singer is Dustin Lynch, and I end up interning here in Tullahoma, hometown of Dustin Lynch, and so I am starting the process of submitting an application to Tennessee Music Pathways to hopefully get a marker here for Dustin Lynch. And so I am currently seeking potential locations for that. That's part of the application is, where could it go? So I'm working on that. I'm working on putting the documentation together. So it's very nice. I encourage you to look on their website. It's got photos on there, it's got a description, and I believe that's something that would be good to draw people here to Tullahoma, considering he named his album Tullahoma. I figured a city needs something that recognizes him. So I hope that will happen, and I'm glad to get this process started, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. So that's what's going on with the Tourism Council. I figured they could say it better than me, so I hope you guys didn't mind that. I thought that was really interesting, talking about a lot of the great things that the Chamber does for us locally. The Tourism Council with the South Central Tourism Association is working together to really draw people in to spend their dollars here in Tullahoma. Also, since we last met, you mentioned it, I don't mind being a martyr. I think at this point the board kind of sees that, and I accept and welcome not only criticism, but will laugh with you as well about some of the flubs that I make. And I certainly made one at the Henry Cho experience. He asked a question about are there any teachers in the building? And here I am sitting on the front row, and I'm like, woo, Robin, once a teacher, always a teacher. Of course, I'm not actively teaching this year, but, I wooed, and he was like, oh, where do you teach? Called me out, and I was like, well, so I taught for, the past 10 years, but I'm not actually teaching. Then why did you woo? Why did you raise your hand? And so he gave me down the road, and he was like, and so what do you do? And I said, well, I'm an alderman in the city of Tullahoma, and I do a couple other things as well. And I said, she's one too. So I tried really hard to push it off on Cernobia, but that just made me look worse. So we got to laugh about Alderman Almacher is not a teacher anymore. So note to self, that teacher's license, if you're not actively teaching, then you're not a teacher anymore. So Henry Cho was hilarious. The guy that opened for him was really fun. That was my first time to get to go to South Jackson Civic Center this year, and man, I really, really enjoyed it. So I hope everybody will pay attention to some of the upcoming shows and things that they've got going on, and continue to come out for that. And on top of all that, I actually spent 4 days at Universal Studios last week. So I snuck in a quick family vacay and hurried back real quick. Lucky enough to have a family home down in Orlando, or in Tampa, not far from Orlando, where we could go down, and my kids really enjoyed it, and spent a few days on the beach, and so I'm back and ready to get back to work. Thank you, Mayor.
And the other question that Henry Cho asked these two aldermen was about their mayor.
Yes.
He said, pointedly asked, is he doing a good job?
To me, yes.
They failed to answer.
They said, do you like the mayor? I said, yeah. Yeah, no, I said, the
Alderman
mayor's doing
Dunn,
it.
you're up.
All right, here I go. All right, so it's been busy for everybody, I guess. And to Miss Luna's point that she mentioned about that there is more trash, Tennesseans throw out 30% more garbage than the national average. So I'm not really surprised. So I agree. I think some sort of campaign where we're trying to get people to be more mindful of that is always a good thing. And I would also like to second Ms. Almacher's idea of just inviting everyone out. April 24th, 8 a.m. at the Public Works Building on Maplewood Drive is where they're going to be handing out grabbers, not pinchers, don't pinch people. Grabbers and the reflective vest.
Don't grab people either.
Stay away from humans.
Without their permission.
Anyway, you'll get your bags and you'll get grief from Jimmy if you go. And also, last Monday, we gave away at the farmer's market with the Interlocal Solid Waste Authority, we gave away 50 composters. So that's looking at 22,000 pounds of trash that's been diverted just this year. So I highly recommend that if you do not compost, it is a great way to really just get to know your garbage, honestly. I know that sounds weird, but like it makes you mindful of what you're using and what you are reusing. And you can throw out you can compost about 30% of your waste. And when we're looking at, is it $75 a ton, Mr. Taylor? That we're higher-ish. So yeah, so I mean, we're saving tax dollars. That's why we're encouraging people to do that. And then next Monday, through the help of TVA, a grant through them, we are giving out about 20 rain barrels. So I know they'll go fast. We're going to start at 3:30, and that's going to be at the farmer's market. And just so you all know, this has been something where I've had people email me about these rain barrels several times. So as a heads up, it's going to be on the agenda next time. I'm going to be applying for a 100% non-matching grant from Walmart to try to do the same thing so we can get about 160 more rain barrels. And of course, this isn't going to fix everything. You know, I mean, 10,000 rain barrels, absolutely. We would see a difference. One rain barrel, you know, but it's partly we need people to be mindful of it. We want people to be paying attention to how they're treating our water, and that our stormwater situation is one that we can all make a positive difference on. So I would certainly encourage everyone who can get a rain barrel to get one. If you can't join me next Monday, or if they sell out, sorry, if we get rid of them before you get there, I am purchasing them through this grant off of the rainbarreldepot.com. So you can always go there and get your own if you can't get them through the city. But we've got lots of good work to do. So that's all.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. Alderman Blackmore.
Yes, thank you. So I did miss the last Board of Education meeting. I was driving back from Nashville from Vanderbilt Hospital, so I missed that. Honestly, I wasn't in the mood to be able to handle a meeting at that point. So, no, but we had, my son was diagnosed with epilepsy that day, so it was just a bit of a day. But some great things. So we did have, I did attend the planning and coordinating meeting last week. Thank you for having that, Mayor. Fantastic information that we heard from all the different city organizations and our departments. So enjoyed going to that. That same day, I also met with Dr. Stevens, who is our school superintendent. If you don't know who she is, our director of schools. But what I met with her about is the Body Project, which I'm getting trained on. It's through the National Eating Disorder Association on April 30th. And talking to her about possibly bringing it into the school system for 11th grade girls to hear about body positivity, so that when they go to college or to their next steps, whatever that may be, that they'll have an idea of what is normal, what is not normal in terms of what the media presents and what is actually healthy. So I'm looking forward to diving more into that, and I'm meeting with them again after I get trained, which is April 30th all day, school board meeting that I missed. Also, I went into West Middle School and talked with their 7th and 8th graders about healthy relationships since we last spoke. And kudos to our school system. I'll tell you what, 7th and 8th graders, it's interesting because what we talk about is very specifically about friendships, and we try to do that because they are just running the gamut into what they are doing at this point. Some of them are dating, some of them are nowhere near it and not even thinking about it. So it's been interesting to navigate that with them and to make sure that I'm answering questions without answering any of those questions, but talking to them about what their friendships look like and how to really maintain healthy ones as opposed to falling into cycles of control and manipulation. So that's really what we talk about. Really want to thank both of the school counselors at East and West Middle School for allowing us to come into there, and also for working with us with those students to see when there are issues that we're hearing that we know that they need to be talked to in more depth, that the counselors are looking at that and then reaching out to those students themselves. So that's amazing. We did have the steering committee for the Diversity Council met, and they elected their officers, and I'm so excited to have it back in the hands of the community again. And so kudos to those officers. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do and what they come up with for the community. Easter egg hunt, Cernovia. That was amazing. I did not expect that many kids there. It was fun volunteering, of course, and seeing everybody come together to put that together. It was amazing. I can't believe that was the first year and there was that many people there. My daughter had a blast.
I'm glad you did.
Mostly, and a couple meltdowns. And thank you so much for doing that. I spoke with LightTube about what the conversations that were happening at the middle schools, and I was really excited to do that to kind of fill them in more. And then this Thursday at Celtic Cup, I will be having my Coffee and Conversations. I am doing 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. and it will be on my Facebook page for anybody who would like to come. And then, of course, the mayor and I attended the special called Planning Commission meeting as well today. So, which we will talk about later, I'm sure, in our agenda. But that's what's been going on. Been busy, really busy, and thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Blackwell. As your experience with 7th and 8th graders, I'll share with you one little tidbit. Ray Norris history. I was a 7th grade teacher for 6 months. It was a career-changing experience.
Wow. Those teachers, the questions they ask, I'm like,
yes. I was not equipped to handle 7th graders, especially the girls. Especially the girls. Honorary Alderman Haley, tell us a little more about what's going on at high school that you'd like for us to know.
Right now, sorry, you put me on the spot. We just had prom last Saturday, which there were a lot of people there, a lot of fun. It seemed really well put together. I was actually kind of surprised because in my experience, people tend to call prom boring. I never got to experience prom because of COVID last year. So this is my first prom that I was ever able to go to. I'm not entirely sure who put it together, but kudos to them because it was very nice. And yeah.
That's all right.
It's a big thing.
That's all right.
I was just trying to think of anything
Proms are
else.
certainly a part of the high school experience that you don't want to miss. Well, let me give you just a thumbnail sketch. By the way, we've had 2 Mondays in a row that we've not had a meeting. Whew, wasn't that nice? Our city administrator didn't have to put together an agenda package for 2 Mondays in a row. I want to follow up on high school just a little bit because there's one thing going on at the high school right now that Haley and I have spoken about, and the AOPA has given a curriculum to the high school that city administrator or the school administrator Stevens has embraced. It's an aviation curriculum that they're putting into high school for next year. It's being extremely well received. And we have anticipated that we will be touching some students with that curriculum that may not be the absolute highest ranking academically in the school, but there'll be some young people that are there that have a particular interest in aviation that will reach out and touch them that will be career changing for them. So we're excited about that. It was mentioned about our mayor's quarterly coordinating meeting last week that we had. I'll share with you one tidbit that came out of that relates to TUA. On blanks, Bob McGee, chairman of your board there, talked about the roundup program that TUA has for their buildings. They round up to the nearest dollar. The fact that last year they gave to charities from that roundup program, they gave over $30,000 to local charities from that. I thought that was amazing that they were doing that. He named the charities and they were all excellent. But I had a call today from a gentleman who was rather upset about the fact that the city was, the TUA was taking his money without his permission. The Roundup money was being taken from him, and he was very upset about it. In fact, he had contacted TUA, asked to be taken off of that. He did not want to be charged that extra so many cents. And the TUA accommodated him and refunded the money that they had collected from him with the Roundup. Actually refunded it to him, no questions asked. But in the conversation with him, I explained to him what TUA did with the money that they collected and how it was going to local charities and things that was benefiting the people that couldn't pay their utility bills. It was being helped to pay utility bills. And this gentleman was he was actually reluctant to even continue the conversation, but he did, and he said, Mayor Norris, I'm going to call TUA immediately when we get off the phone. I'm going to call them and ask them to reinstate me into the Roundup program. So all it takes is explaining a little bit about what the money's going for to get people to participate in it. So
one thing about, Mayor, one thing about the Roundup program, probably 6 months before we instituted this, we put in the bills what we were doing. If you want to opt out, let us know. So they had plenty of time to opt out of that if they wanted to opt out. And if you're just now watching this and you decided you need to opt out or you don't want to participate, it's totally voluntary, you know. So, in a way, I mean, if you pay attention to your bill, you would have seen that was an opt-out option. So.
Well, I did have the opportunity to explain this to him, and he was chagrined a little bit that he didn't realize that, but was very complimentary of the people at TUA for opting him out at that point. But anyway, that's what's going on with in the mayor's world. Other than a little bit of travel that I did that I won't go into. At this point, we have a report from our city attorney, Mr. Worsham.
You all probably don't realize how titillating and exciting the practice of law is in Tullahoma. So I don't have anything very exciting to report to you tonight, but I did go to the Planning and Coordinating Committee meeting, enjoyed it tremendously, and I think Jack enjoyed it too. He wasn't able to attend the entire meeting. He got a little rambunctious, and Alderman Blackwell had to remove him from the premises for a while, but it was a very good meeting. We learned a lot of good things. It's amazing, if you all could go to that, how much is going on in this town. It's just incredible. The newspaper just can't report all the things because they don't know a lot of them. But that was a very good meeting, and I enjoyed it a lot. We're continuing to work on the delinquent property tax sale matters. Getting service of process on a lot of people is very difficult because many of them don't pick up their mail. If we do it by certified mail, if we try to get a processor, they know how to avoid those, but we're still working on that, and eventually we'll get there. Something good to report to you is you'll see on item 2146 of the consent agenda that we're approving the scope of work with Rogers for a project at the Avoca Riley Creek Road intersection. Mrs. Moody is going to be closing the purchase of that property for $60,000 from Mr. and Mrs. Howard in the next few days. The title is good. We have the title searched and everything's fine. So we'll have that property in hand and we'll be able to move forward with that very important operation out there to improve the safety at that intersection. I have one question to ask of, I guess it's Mrs. Dunn. What do you do with the rain in the rain barrels after you connect it?
That is a great question. So the easiest thing to do would be just after the rain event. So about 24 hours after you can tell that the rain, you know, that the water isn't so saturated, you can just release the water. It's got a spigot on the front.
Okay.
But other than that, you can water your garden with it, your flowers, or you can wash your car. Or that's about it, though. You can't drink it. You wouldn't let your pets drink it or anything like that. But it's just, but yeah, it's mainly for flood control. So that's the main purpose. But
so if you had a house with about 12 downspouts, you'd need 12 rain barrels, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, you don't need any, but the more you have, the more you're able to keep the water in your own yard versus your neighbor's yard. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, but yeah. Yeah, if you've got 12, you want 12 rain barrels, you get them, get them.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to do that or not, because all my downspouts actually go down into the ground, and then they go into a French drain, so I'd have to change all my gutters to do that, but it's a really good project, I
It
think.
really is, yes.
Y'all have any questions about anything? Thank you, Alderman Almacher, for all your endeavors, all your shenanigans. That's good. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're ready now for a report from our city administrator, Ms. Moody.
Thank you. I have a number of things I want to share with you. I've been trying to think about how to condense them down. First, I'll share with our city charter amendment. Tonight, they should be taking the final vote on the amended bill. And then possibly in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have that signed and back to us to be placed on the agenda. So we're very close. Also wanted to share with you, and not to steal from Alderman Blackwell's report, but City Schools, I know, has been working very hard on their summer programming and how they can close the learning loss gap. And I just wanted to share that Parks and Recreation's also working on their summer programming that will include a summer tutoring program. And so proud of that, and I hope people will take advantage of that opportunity. It'll be full day program, tutoring in the morning until lunchtime. Lunch will be provided, and then recreation afterwards. So I think that'll be a great program. Also, a lot of things going on, pieces of information we're collecting, getting ready for this year's budget proposal. And I just want to share some good news with you, and also commend our finance staff for their good stewardship of our public funds. We have received good news on our workers' comp audit. We're looking at a premium refund there. Also heard back from the city's insurer, Public Entity Partners, and looking at a dividend return from liability and property insurance as well. So that'll be a little bit of help to us. Been having good meetings with Cheryl Morgan, who's our financial advisor on our health insurance plan. And we have had a fairly good year in terms of medical claims, pharmacy, all of that. As you would suspect, utilization is down somewhat because of COVID this past year. But we do see that a lot of people are using telemedicine and keeping up with their prescriptions and things like that. So maybe not, while visits to the ER and things like that were down, overall, I think people are keeping up with their health. And that's been good to see. We're not anticipating any changes to our employee benefit plan this year. And we're also looking at renewal quotes that are very positive. So we'll be bringing that information to you just in really in another month or so. Also, just wanted to share, make sure that everyone saw our Tullahoma Municipal Airport was, there was a great write-up in the last edition of Town and City, the Tennessee Town and City newspaper, and it highlighted what you probably had already seen, which was an economic impact analysis for Tennessee, and it reported Tennessee airports generate more than $8.6 billion in direct visitor spending from tourists flying in. Now we know that because we're very familiar with our Tullahoma Airport and the economic impact it generates for us, but what we were surprised by is that we were listed as number 2 largest economic impact in our region, right behind the Chattanooga Airport.
That's awesome.
So, you know, I think if we could only see the activity out there, I mean, I think we would be amazed. Also, wanted to share, as you know, I will be recruiting a Parks and Recreation director. So we're, our current director is looking at a May 7th retirement date. I'm moving pretty quickly. I plan to bring you a recommendation by the second meeting in May. And so just wanted to share that the request for applications is out there. It closes April 19th. and looking for candidates and working with MTAS on an assessment center process. The interview overall process will be very similar for every department head, but so far we've only had the police chief hiring, but it'll be very similar. An assessment center with MTAS, followed by a community panel and one-on-one interviews, and then I make my written recommendation to you. Also, I did not maybe travel to as fun of a place as some of you, but I was able to spend some time in Murfreesboro at my Tennessee City Managers Association conference last week. Came home each night, but it was still a good break and an opportunity to get away and network and talk with some of my colleagues across the state. And there was a lot of really good information that I brought back, and a lot of it makes me think of things that you're very concerned about. So I know we heard a lot about biofuels and alternative energy and renewable energy sources and what's happening with electric vehicles, and thought of Go Green. And we also were very concerned with forecasting our local economy and how we continue to be impacted by really macroeconomic effects, the cost of transportation, challenges with supply chain. For Tennessee, they talked a lot about how our local economies and our state economy are dependent on this housing market, and that we're all seeing a huge demand for housing, but our ability to grow is being held back by the difficulty in getting these construction materials and getting homes built fast enough. So that was interesting to hear. That's really everyone across the state. My particular contribution to the conference is I put together a panel with Nathan Garrett, he works for the Tennessee Board of Regents across the state, setting up apprenticeship programs, but he's also the interim president of the McMinnville TCAT. And he worked with myself and some others and put together a building inspector apprenticeship program. And so they'll be rolling that out across the state, and it's really meant to help create a new pipeline for inspectors, because especially you see it here in Middle Tennessee, but what I heard was it's an issue across the state that there is just a very high demand for those positions, and it's very difficult to find people, even though it can be a lucrative career path for somebody. It takes a skill and a technical knowledge, but not necessarily a college degree. And so we're trying to create a program where maybe more students, younger generation will, and people who maybe wouldn't have otherwise considered that career will start to take a look at it. So we're excited about that. And then probably the most talked about thing at the conference was the America Rescue Plan Act. If you have not been aware, I can promise you we've been watching it pretty closely. There are millions of dollars being allocated for the county and for cities through the federal government. The comptroller's office gave a presentation to the city managers and really cautioned that while it sounds like the money is going to flow very quickly and directly to cities, maybe in the next 60 days, that we wait for further guidance, because right now, the way the legislation's written, there's only 4 uses of those funds, and they're fairly restrictive, and they're asking for a lot of, the comptroller's office on our behalf is asking for interpretation, clarification questions. And so until we hear back some interpretation issues from the U.S. Department of Treasury, they're saying don't really make any firm plans or do not spend the money till you know what strings are attached. So we'll be watching that. I know there's also a lot of federal money for school system. And in talking with Dr. Stevens, I know we're all looking for the best investment that we can make for the future and how to utilize these funds to build our infrastructure. And so while it doesn't directly probably impact our operating budget, we are paying attention to that, and I hope to bring you more good news about that in the future.
Do you remember offhand the four qualifications for the
I do. I have my notes with me too. So it's interesting. The first one is fairly vague, and it says that it can be used for COVID-19 response and responding to the negative economic impacts.
Wow.
The second category is directed at pay for eligible workers who perform essential work. But we haven't heard whether we'll be allowed to apply that retroactively, and we haven't heard if they're going to define essential work in any way. The third category is for replacement of revenue, but only if you've had year-over-year losses. And I know the Tennessee Municipal League spoke and mentioned that at this point, they think there are only 20 cities in Tennessee that will be able to meet that criteria, and they're mostly in top tourism destination locations. And then the fourth category is necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. And again, TML said that there are, I won't remember the number, but I want to say less than a third of Tennessee cities have their own water and sewer utilities. So like us, they're outside the city. And then maybe only 13 communities have broadband infrastructure. So there may be, while the number is really large for what's available for us, once you look at the restrictions and how you can use it, they're anticipating that a lot of cities will not be able to really access these funds and use them. And so in a way, I'm glad you asked that, because I think it's really important that we continue to talk with our representatives about the $200 million that the governor proposed in the budget. Because that money, if you recall last year, we knew it was one-time money, but I will go on record as saying I think it was one of the most successful programs that the state's ever pushed out. They gave the money directly to cities. They gave us 5 pretty broad categories, but I think good categories for how to spend the money. They gave us till June 30th. We got it spent in the same fiscal year. And they were spent, for us, they were spent on transportation projects, which always are the most difficult for us to find financing for. And they were spent on public safety improvements. If you remember going digital with our public safety radios and being able to offer body cameras for all our officers. So I think if we can just continue to remind them how successful that program was, if they will fund that again this year, I think we'll put that money to good use, and we'll be able to put it to use quickly without a lot of administrative documentation and red tape. And a lot of people are afraid of that with the federal dollars, that in addition to the sort of vague language and restrictions, if we use the money to subgrant it out, that we'll be held responsible for their capacity to document and do all the reporting that's required by federal programs. So anyway, it's a lot to digest, a lot to think about, and there will definitely be further guidance. They're telling us right now, mid-May, to maybe expect some further guidance from the U.S. Department of Treasury. And so we'll all be watching.
I have a question about the summer tutoring program. Is there a cost, and where will it be held?
You know what I should do? I think that, like we did tonight, I'll invite Lyle Russell from our Parks Department to come and talk about that program.
Okay.
And how you can sign up and all the details of it.
Okay.
I cannot remember if there's going to be a cost to it.
I think that this is the one that you're partnering with to bring the kids in that got letters home. Some of us got letters home.
I think it's similar. I know that it's a program, we're able to get some funding and some college students to come and be the tutors.
Okay, it might be a
That's why I can't remember if there is a little cost to cover.
Is there two or is there one program? Because that's where I'm getting confused.
I think there's 2 different programs.
Okay, then never mind.
Okay.
There's the school systems program, I think will definitely be free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. Is there anything else?
I think that's it for now.
Thank you. Thank you. You've been a busy person. We'll go into the consent agenda. I will remind you that all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or a citizen requests. And in that case, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. During the portion of the meeting reserved for comments from citizens as shown on the agenda, citizens may request that the item be removed from the consent agenda so discussion can be held on that item. I'll read the captions for the consent agenda. Item number 2143 is simply the minutes from the 22nd of March regular meeting. 2144, to accept a grant of $3,200 from the Tennessee Titans Foundation to support the Tullahoma Parks and Recreation Department's NFL flag football program. Number 2145, set a public hearing for April 26th on a request to rezone the property on the 1600 block of Cedar Lane from high density to residential R3, from residential R3 to general commercial C2. And item number 2146 is to approve a scope of work with Rogers Group and approve a budget of $125,000 for traffic study improvement project at the intersection of Old Road and Riley Creek Road. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull number 4. I just feel like with the, well, we'll talk about it then. I'd like to pull number 4 for discussion.
Item number 4 for 2146 will be approved for discussion in the new business section.
It's okay by me if I made the motion.
Same.
Okay, with that, we have a motion to approve that exception. All in favor? You vote. Vote is 7-0, so the consent agenda with the exception of item number 2146 is approved. Okay. Okay. Under old business, we have an ordinance number 1548, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Tullahoma and set forth in Tullahoma Municipal Code, which is ordinance number 1392, to rezone approximately 1.58 acre parcel located at 2200 Flowertown Road from R4 Mobile Home Park, high density residential, to C2 General Commercial District. Is there hear a motion?
Second.
Motion for Daniel Berry, approved by, and seconded by Alderman Almacher.
Blackwell.
Blackwell, look in the right direction. Excuse me. Any discussion? We vote. Resolution passes, or ordinance passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1549. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of Tullahoma, Tennessee is set forth in the Tullahoma Municipal Code, which is ordinance number 1392, to rezone approximately 2.28 acre parcel located on 300 South Atlantic Street from C1 Central Commercial District to C3 Neighborhood Commercial District, and to adopt that on the second final reading. Your motion.
Move to approve.
Move to approve from Alderman Blackwell and seconded by Snoga McGee. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Ordinance passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1550, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Tullahoma, Tennessee, is set forth in the Tullahoma Municipal Code, which is ordinance number 1392, to rezone approximately 5.3 acre parcel located at 200 block of Flowertown Road from R1 Low Density Residential District to C2 General Commercial District. That will be on the second reading. Your motion?
Move to approve.
Moved from Alderman Dunn, seconded by
Blackwell.
Alderman Blackwell, seconded by Alderman Berry.
Thank you.
Cast your vote. Ordinance passes 7-0. Item number 8, number 1551, An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tullahoma, Tennessee, which is ordinance number 1392, by amending Article 8 of non-conforming provisions and Article number 4 specific district regulations and replacing Section 804 non-conforming lots of record with a new Section 804 non-conforming lots of record and adding a language table TZ-1 that's been on our agenda before. This is on second reading. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, Alderman from Mayor Pro Tem Blanks, seconded by Alderman Blackwell. Any discussion? Cast your vote. That ordinance passes 7-0. Is there any other old business? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. This ordinance is number 1553. It's an ordinance to set the salaries of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen effective upon the election of new officials and the annual amounts of $15,000 for mayor and $7,500 for aldermen. That is on the agenda the way it's stated. We'll get a motion and then we'll have a discussion, and there's an action item that I'd like to add to that. So hear a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Blank, seconded by Alderman Blackwell. Alderman Hallmacher.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. In that, the motion as it's stated is effective upon the election of new officials. I've discussed this with both the city administrator and the city attorney, in that it is my opinion that it's inappropriate to not adjust all the salaries for the board at the same time. In order to do that, of course, you can't vote on your salary change while you are sitting elected official, according to state ordinance. Accordingly, it's my caveat to this that it will be effective after the election of 2024, at which time all sitting elected officials will not have served. We will be acting this for newly elected officials after none of our current terms are in effect. So that's the caveat that I would make into this ordinance that we're looking at right now. Is there any discussion on that subject?
Should we make a motion to amend?
I'd entertain a motion to amend to that effect.
Make a motion to amend. Add the, not taking effect until 2024.
You understand what the amendment is to when this would become effective, in that no sitting alderman's salaries would change. We wouldn't have 2 aldermen making one salary and 4 aldermen making a different salary. So that's my intent, is to make everything as equitable as I possibly can.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
The motion to amend would apply to the resolution that's on page 68 of the agenda. Instead of saying it shall take effect from after its passage, it would say effect after the election of 2024.
That is correct.
So change that wording in that resolution, and that's all that would take.
That's what we'd like to do.
Why would it wait till 20, because that will be when we're all on the same cycle?
No, you will not be all on the same cycle, but by that time, everyone that's voting today will have served their terms and would.
And they will be in a new term, or there will be a new alderman, in other words, by that.
But you're voting on it now, so that if we don't do it this way, we never get there. You'd always be someone
And just
be able to vote
to
approve
clarify,
it.
it's an ordinance. So I'm thinking if they amend it now, then we can correct it for second reading?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the ordinance. And so I will,
I'm going to vote no. I'm just going to let y'all know why. This is a box and whisker plot, okay? So, I know, graph screen. All right, so this is the information that Ms. Moody sent us with I think it was about 15 different mayor incomes. So the way you read a box and whisker plot, your second and third quartile, that's literally the norm, okay? Not like the figurative word, but normal is right here in that box. And that red dot, that's where the mayor's salary is currently. The proposed salary is sitting there right there in the 4th quartile. So we are literally asking for a raise that is out of the norm. I would also like to point out that the mayor's salary right here at 0, that's Farragut, Tennessee. Farragut, Tennessee averages income, those citizens in the 6 figures. I don't know that it's exactly why, but I think the citizens of Farragut believe that this position is a volunteer position. And I think that our salary or our stipend or whatever you want to call it should reflect that. I don't have any idea how we should be out of the norm and why we would go past that. So I think yeah, sorry.
I don't have a box and whisker plot, but this came up, 9 months ago, and it did not pass. And I stated my points on that, why I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to support it again. I think that there's 2 ways of looking at what we do. We are either a service, and we're serving our community, or this should be a job, and we're working 40-hour weeks, and we should be getting paid. Because in my mind, my goal is to make this job something that people can do. This pay raise doesn't do that per se if we wanted to have more people involved and more people want to run. So in essence, we're still just, I don't even see the point in this raise. We are already the average. I don't understand what the goal is. Since we are already the norm, we're already the average, why would we increase this pay when there are so many other things we're hearing from our community that they want us to put money into? I don't know, I think that's a $3,700 pay raise for all the aldermen. That's times 6 of us. So that's about $22,000 about dollars plus, another, I guess like $5,000 with the mayor's raise or $3,000. That's $25,000 that we're talking to these nonprofits who are saying, hey, we want funding for this and this, and that may not be the example I want to use. That's what I came up with just now. I just don't see us putting it here.
When was the last time we had a raise, city administrator?
1970, 1993, 1997,
Which one?
23 years ago.
Okay. We're a progressive city in that we, try to move forward, and we're a little bit different than the areas around us, I would hope. I brought this to the forefront, right around election time. Last year, I thought that was a little bit of the pushback. It's not going to affect anybody's salary up here as far as what you're not voting your own raise or whatever. But, I think it's time really to bump that up, especially on the mayoral end. If you want the same argument, we don't do this for more money, then why don't we just vote it and just vote us 0 pay?
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with
Or
that.
we could, people can say, no, we're not gonna take that money and give it back. Or donate it back if somebody's not comfortable, they can take their check and give it back. The mayor and I both abstained from that vote because we were running at the time, and it would have, at that time, impacted one of us. And I spend probably on an easy week, 25 or so hours a week aldermaning, and you're right, it's supposed to be, this is supposed to be a part-time job.
Yeah.
Or not even part-time, we get paid to show up to the meetings, but I think that this board as a whole, unlike, and I'm nothing against anybody in the past, and I don't mean it, but times have changed and things have changed. When they set the salaries back in 1997, you didn't have that same 93, you didn't have the same type of involvement that you have from here. I spend more money than I make from aldermaning, doing I don't know if aldermaning's a term, but I'm going to coin it. Aldermaning, and so, but I'm also I'm a single income house. It's just me, and I'm used to be, when I first took this job, it was okay because I worked out of town and I had a great, but I'll tell you, I struggled just like everybody else here in town. And so it doesn't affect us, but I feel, and I don't even know that I'll run in the next election because I don't know that I want to be here that long and I can continue to do what I want in the community. But I think for the people that come down after us, if they want to say, no, I don't want my paycheck, then they can say, no, I don't want my paycheck. If somebody now thinks that it should be free, they can say, no, I don't want my paycheck. But I think it was George Washington who said, you want to pay your elected officials so they're not looking for money elsewhere. I don't think anybody else on this board was, but I do think, or is doing that. But I do think that there is, it is selfless, and we do it to serve, but there are expenses. And, you know, it takes from my working day where I'm the only one making income from me. And so when I'm spending 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week doing this, that does cost. And so that little bit does help me.
And I'm in agreement with you on that.
Let's go around to, let's get input from everyone first, and we'll come back.
So,
Walker, you have comments?
yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I actually will support this, and here's why. I'm much in agreement with, we haven't had a raise, this board has not had a raise. This will not affect, again, any of us sitting here currently right now, since 1993. So by the time this goes into effect, that'll be 21 years. If you look, 31 years, excuse me. Yes, so even more to my point. If you look at what the board's duties were at the time in 1993 versus the number of, even though I kind of disagree with all the committees that we have that are, you know, we're supporting a lot, but everybody on this board doesn't just come and do these meetings twice a month. All of us, when you hear our alderman reports, you hear everything, even Robin that you're doing, Rupa that you're doing, these guys on this board go above and beyond. And we want to continue to recruit people that look at this like a service, but nothing in life is free. And just like Daniel was saying, there actually is a federal law that our president has to take a salary. You want people to take those salaries so that there isn't corruption behind the scenes. Like, I mean, there's a point to that. Now, looking at the figures, I don't see, based on the numbers that Ms. Moody presented us with, that we would just be so overpaid that it would be, you know, a draw into, go run for office. You're going to get a big fat paycheck. Looking at these numbers, obviously. And then if you are the mayor, even though it is a part-time mayoral position, mayor, I can't imagine how many things on a daily basis you feel obligated that, you know, I've got this event and that event and I need to be here and I need to be there. You almost have to be retired, really,
Absolutely.
to do a position like this. And for somebody like me, and I feel like I'm the only one with this status on the board, so I can say this, Daniel, you may be a single male. I'm a single mom of 3 kids, and I won't, you know, even though I do this as a service, I hope that more women will step up to the plate in my position that come from where I'm at, and be able to do so. But when you're giving up that time and you're giving back and you're serving on all these boards and you're going above and beyond, you're looking at this amount, that's a very minimal amount in my personal opinion compared to the fact that we haven't had a raise in 30 years. So I will support the ordinance.
Thank you. Alderman McGee, do you have anything you'd like to add as we go around?
Yes, I do. I also am in support of this. Where Alderman Armacher is a single mother, I'm sort of like a single grandmother. I do help raise my grandchildren. I don't do this to get paid because I enjoy working with the community, but it does help. Children are expensive, and it's something every day. I do work a full-time job, over 80 hours, plus I do about 20 to 25 hours a week being an alderman. And it, you know, every little bit helps. And like Alderman Almacher said, you know, I want to be an inspiration. There's so many other grandmothers who are raising their grandchildren. And I just want them to know that, you know, the sky's the limit for them as well. And so every little bit helps. So
Okay.
that's my take on that.
Let me interject one comment that keep in mind, this is not even being proposed now. This is being proposed in 4 years from now, 3 years from now. So those numbers may skew some in that length of time. And I'll be glad to take a look at those numbers that you're looking at and see if I come up with the same numbers, same graph. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I might interject something. Those numbers might not be reflective of the situation because in towns that have a city manager form of government rather than a mayor aldermanic form of government, the powers and duties and responsibilities of the mayor and the alderman are very different than in other towns. So, for instance, at Farragut, if that has a city manager form of government, the mayor is sort of a figurehead in those towns and has very little authority. They're just kind of, well, I can tell you a story about a former mayor in Manchester who got elected and said, you know, this job's a lot harder than I thought. He said, all I thought I was going to be doing is kissing babies and going to ribbon cutting. He said, there's a lot more to it than that. So, you know, there's a lot more to it than kissing babies and going to ribbon cutting. So look at that in terms of the figures. If you were to look at towns similar to ours, size-wise, and the form of government they have, that might be a little bit different.
They were, yes, sir.
Which is our form of government.
Yes.
okay, I'm ready to call the question. And we have an amendment to the
Yes, did we get a second? on-
No.
I know we had a motion on the amendment. Thank you. So vote on the amendment.
We had
and then vote on the
an amendment with a second. Someone has seconded.
Yes, Barry made the motion, Almacher seconded the motion to amend that this will take place effective after the election of 2024.
And we'll vote on that, and we'll vote now on that amendment.
So we're voting on the amendment.
We're voting on the amendment. To vote in
change it to
2024.
All right.
Vote is 5-2, the amendment passes. Now, we have the motion, the original motion.
Since this is an ordinance, this is the first of 2 readings, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So there'll be plenty of time for public commentary between now and 2 Mondays from now.
Okay, we'll vote on the original ordinance number 1553
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
as amended. That vote is 5-3.
5-2.
5-2, excuse me. Seeing double. So that ordinance passes 5-2
On first reading.
on the first reading. Thank you for that spirited discussion. Resolution number, another new business, another resolution. This is a resolution now under 1857, a resolution establishing the guidelines for annual nonprofit appropriations granted by the city. You'll see that on page 69 of your packet. And effectively, what that resolution now is asking that anyone coming to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to ask for money, that they come prepared to tell the board how those funds will be used. In other words, they have a spend plan. The second part of that resolution is that if someone comes and asks for money who got money last year, they'll be asked to submit in writing, how did you spend the money last year compared to how you propose to spend it? So those are the things that we're requiring that they do in writing to the board. We will invite them to come to make the presentation to the board, but the board will get a packet from each nonprofit prior to coming to ask for money with those stipulations. So that's the substance of that resolution. I entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Blanks and seconded by Alderman Almacher. Any discussion?
can we add some stipulations to this? I would love to see it not, I think that if you're getting, the state does this, and I think it's a good thing, that the money that you receive from the taxpayers or even the tourism, which is still taxed on, not be used for operating expenses. It needs to go towards a specific project. Would be one that I would like to see. I would like to see some sort of time on here. If you, I mean, really, I'm not comfortable giving, outside of the tourism money, I think if the residents want to give to nonprofits, then the residents should give to nonprofits. I personally don't think that the city should be, but if I've got to compromise and find some way forward, I would like to see it, you know, maybe it's 2 years, or you get it 3 years, and then there's a cooling off period that where you don't receive any money for another 5 years or something like that. Would be too kind of offhand. And then, and I think Alderman Blackwell and Almacher and maybe even Dunn had brought up, some of these are really disproportionate compared to others. So maybe there's just a flat, you don't request money, this is what we're given. You can request this. If it's, we decide as a board that we've got 10 spots for $1,500, then you get one of those spots for $1,500. But it's just a flat fee to where it doesn't seem arbitrary or any possible favoritism or any, it just eliminates all that. Not that it's happening, right, but it's perception to where you're applying for a specific dollar amount that we predetermined. I have more, but I'll let other people go.
Mayor, may I say something?
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with Alderman Berry. I think this is very general. It doesn't really go into specifics. I think in the last meeting when we were in our study session, I said that I'd like to see a rubric, and maybe I can reach out to MTS to see if they have one. But I think that, you know, I think that if we're going to be asking these nonprofits and they're coming to us to ask for money, I do want to see, like Alderman Berry saying, some sort of a follow-up, which is in here, which is good, but they should be applying for programs. They should be applying as though it's a grant application is what I'd like to see. And I'd like for us to, rather than making it look like it's discretionary, which is what it looks like to the public at this point, I would like for us to come up with a rubric that would grade them and grade their applications, so that then we can say, hey, this is super fair. This is as fair as it can get, and here's the process. It's very confusing, I think, and so I appreciate this resolution. I don't think it does enough at this point, and I'm hoping we can add more to it instead, or come up with a real process.
So I think that this resolution, I think we should keep this resolution and also possibly add another, like Rupa said, that has a specific rubric. However, I like the fact that if we're going to give any dollars whatsoever, basically, whether it's by rubric or flat fee, however we choose to do that, this basically says if you're going to receive those dollars, here's the stipulation. You have to tell us what you're going to use it for specifically. And so regardless of how we choose or how much we choose to give them, or if we have a rubric, I still say we keep this resolution as well.
I think there's certain places in town that I feel like, because we have partnerships with the county or the state, like the library and the senior citizen center and the health department, that those are things that people look to as, because we aren't the capital of our county, but people still expect those amenities in Tullahoma. So there's certain things that, yes, I think we're going to have to pay the utility bill for the senior citizen center or the health department. So, but I agree. There's a lot more. We've got some work to do with this, and this is very fuzzy, and I've felt uncomfortable with the way we've dealt with nonprofits so far. So I'm glad to see this is a step in the right direction.
we tried to put that language together so that it gives us some measure, some way to hold them accountable for the funds that they're asking for, and how did you use it, what are you going to use it for in the future. Not to say that this is the end that we'll have, but this is a building block I'd like to go forward with at this point. That'd be my desire.
Mayor, I'm wondering, the flavor of the board, I don't think anybody up here, and I'm ambivalent either way, are comfortable with this resolution. If this is just thinking out loud, if we table this resolution and go back to the city administrator, and she's listened to our concerns and voices tonight and come up with something a little bit better, I hate to pass a resolution and then still have to amend it and do all these things to it when we can maybe get a better one. Now that we've aired out what our concerns and thoughts are, because we haven't done that other than the last meeting when we said we need to do something better. This is a starting point. This has got us talking about it, but I don't know.
Let me comment on that.
Okay.
I think with this can be a building block. This can be a starting point. This can be something that we put together to flesh on this resolution. I don't think we have to, of course we're not going to have to do the allocations for almost another year. But anyway, this could be a building block, and I think it would set the tone for the nonprofits to alert them that there is going to be some accountability in the future up front, so it's not we don't spring that on them right before they have to submit something next year. So that's my thoughts on it.
But where would we come back, if this is our building block, if we're going to mold this into something that's more palatable to this board, at what point do we have a year before we amend this or change it or do another resolution? Or I don't want to resolute us to death.
Can it be done, some changes be made before our next? Is that enough time?
I'd like to see a rubric, I think. And I will, to the mayor's, correct, before you answer that, I will say that the nonprofits are not aware. I had a conversation with the chamber, actually, and she said, I just didn't realize I was going to have to sing for my supper. And she said, I don't feel like anybody else in the room did either. And it just may be the change on the board and the new dynamic that we have. But I would like to see a rubric. Do you think that that's something maybe we could come up with?
I think the difficulty is that, especially in local government, everyone is doing it differently. And even just your discussion, this is the broad range of opinions that are out there and how cities are doing it. Some feel adamantly they don't fund nonprofits at all. Some, are very discretionary and maybe closer to the process we've seen. I haven't found an example yet that there is a really defined process, but I think if we look at some help from nonprofit entities and states, maybe even, they have more criteria for how they fund things like this because of maybe grant programs. Nonprofits like the United Way, I think, has a very rigorous process of not just applying for funds, but they've got timelines, like you suggested. They've got rubrics and accountability. So I think we can find some people to help guide this conversation. And I was just hesitant on the 2-week mark. We could have something probably in front of you in 2 weeks. I don't know if it's going to be much better than just a starting point again, or if maybe, as you're suggesting, don't take a year, because like you said, don't spring it on the nonprofits, but maybe take a few months and try to really dig in and look at what your options are and how you want to structure it.
Possibly.
Okay, I listened last meeting when we discussed this very intently to what I perceived to be the intent and desire of this board. And what I heard was a desire to hold them accountable, have them state explicitly how they plan to use the money, how they, and hold them accountable and have them report on that. If that's not the desire of this board, we can withdraw that resolution.
I think that this is I should have started by prefacing by saying thank you, because
Yes.
the last time that we did this and I had asked, it was it was kind of told, you got the power of the purse, you can do it later, and nothing really happened. And so this is, I think, great. I think kind of what I did think that we were going to do was maybe have more of a study session where we could kind of talk and have some of the resources, and because I 100%, I mean, I've got a lot more ideas that I would, like to have done, but I don't want to delay it until forever. I don't think that this will impact this year's maybe, but I also don't want to resolution to death and keep amending. It'd be nice just to have the conversation. Let's all, I already know that I'm going to have to compromise, because we're not just going to eliminate it. But let's find that middle ground with each other, and let's get a solid resolution. Let's pass it. Here you are. It's done, guys.
I think one of the dangers of having it be sort of broad and sort of just like this is that I think what we're all anticipating is someone's going to get a no. Someone's going to hear the no, and they want to know exactly, why did I not get approved of this? And if we don't have a rubric to look to say, hey, we needed this, this, and this, and you didn't qualify, then it's going to be a really kind of an emotional upset that I would much rather be able to say, yes, here's why, no, here's why. And I think having it that way will be really helpful.
I like that, Robin.
So what I heard her say is, let's just cut it all this year, and we'll start back up next year.
Stop. No, but is it feasible for us to put together a rubric and to have a study session, rubric, R-U-B-R-I-C, between now and the allocation time? So
I could not hear what she was saying. I was saying, but I sent her a note.
The problem is your rubric. Who's gonna rule the rubric?
Mr. Mayor, can we maybe put together a small committee? Can we do that?
You can. They will have to abide by the public meetings laws.
There's not enough time to do all that.
So you can, but you'll just have to publish the meetings.
We have a pretty good committee right here.
We do.
Committee that doesn't really, don't mind expressing themselves.
I feel like that was personal.
He's looking at me.
You've mentioned the issue of a study session.
Yeah.
It's almost 7:30
I know.
Tonight. We still got
We have
things
to
to go.
announce it.
Not tonight.
And study sessions go on as well. I thought last board meeting, we had a great study session during our board meeting. That's how this resolution came to be, was the result of that.
I call the question, Mayor.
Okay. I'll second that.
You don't have to have a second. You vote.
We got a small board, you don't actually have to have a second.
We vote on the motion. Vote on the resolution.
To amend it? Is that what you're talking?
No, just vote.
The same resolution.
That motion passes 6-1.
No.
Resolution passes 6-1.
What happened to Barry?
6-1.
Oh, Barry's is out.
I was still thinking.
I'm sorry. Well, hold on a second. Sorry, I didn't catch it. So everyone can vote again. Now it's lit up. Everybody voted. It's lit up, and here we go. 5-2.
5-2. Okay.
But
Now then, moving right along. Agenda item number 2147, of which you do have an amended version of that. It was on page 70. You have an amended page 7. And as I look at that amended page 7, it seems that the subject that the subject has been changed.
Yes, it
That
has
can
the
happen.
correct subject now.
That can happen, there's no problem with that. I think everyone understands what we're voting on. The Planning Commission met earlier this evening to approve a professional services agreement with Walker Collaborative for a comprehensive development plan. And at this point in time, we have an agenda item to approve a professional services agreement in the amount not to exceed $200,000 with the Walker Collaborative to develop a 20-year growth and development plan, or in other words, a comprehensive land use plan for the city of Tullahoma. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve?
Move to approve by Alderman Dunn.
Second.
Second by Alderman McGee. Any discussion on that? Not, we're ready to vote.
Yes, discussion.
Okay, Alderman Lawler.
If I could, I wanted to just add this for clarification. The reason that you don't have a contract in front of you tonight is what I'm attempting to ask for in this agenda item is your approval to set a not to exceed amount, a budget for us while we finish negotiations with this recommended vendor. So I believe tonight the Planning Commission, they voted to recommend the Walker Collaborative and maybe made an amendment or a request for what should be included in the final contract. And then I was wanting for you to consider it following their meeting. We just didn't have enough time to get all the final negotiation things worked out. But we have quite a bit of the scope ironed out, even down to the number of days for each activity. And we're still working with the economist on exactly what different types of analysis, like a housing study, and what different things we want included in the plan. So that'll dictate the final cost. And we do anticipate it to the final number to be somewhere between $175,000 and $200,000. So that's why I've asked for this not to exceed $200,000. And when we have the final contract, I'll certainly bring that back so you can have opportunity to see it and approve it.
I would like to see what some other cities are doing with their comprehensive plans. You know, I see these firms, but I know that different city managers and city administrators are doing this. This is one of those things that they do differently, that there's kind of a large gamut, but I am uncomfortable with the cost right out the gate, especially not knowing exactly what we are approving and not hearing from this group, not knowing what our options are. I feel like it's seeming, again, and I may be off base, but I don't have enough information to know whether or not that this money will be spent fruitfully.
Okay. Well, they were certainly responsive to our request for proposal. So the scope that's defined in this RFP is what they're responding to. And it is typically about a 12-month project. We had 7 proposals received, and their timelines ranged from, I would say this was one of the most aggressive. Walker Collaborative suggested a 10-month time frame. We had some that were around 14 months. And I would say that's about right. You'll see that across almost any community, barring maybe the metros, like I said. And I know Nashville's plan's called Nashville Next. It took them a number of years. I came from City of Murfreesboro, where it took us 4 years. And I was there for the last 3 of it.
Well,
so they're very, depends on, like you said, what elements are in the plan. And it also relies on a lot of public engagement. One of the things that made our proposal unique, and where we certainly could cut costs, I don't know that I would recommend it, but we specifically asked for some branding and PR. And so one of the sub-consultants that was brought to this is a PR firm that can help make sure that we get try as many different tools and outreach methods as we can to get public engagement. I think that that's certainly driving the cost, because a lot of that's high touch. It takes people and gathering their input and maybe using some social media, some other unique tools to do that. The other area I already mentioned, they've recommended an economist, Randall Gross Economics. to come in and provide some additional analysis. And there are a lot of different options available to us. We, as a staff, are pretty focused. We believe that we need a housing market study, that we know there's gaps that aren't being met. We hear this pretty regularly. And if we can get a study done that will give us data that we can go out and talk to developers and not just say that we have a gut feeling or we have an anecdote as to why they should build a different product, but we have real numbers that show the demand that's out there, I think we can be more successful bringing some condos and townhomes and other products to the market. So those are areas that come to the top of mind that I think would make our proposal different, but I think probably right for Tullahoma. And I've been really, I mentioned the engagement again just because I feel like that's the direction that I've gotten from this board, that that's really important. And we have not ever done a professionally put together growth plan in Tullahoma. This will be the first comprehensive development plan in the city's history.
I'd like to share some of the discussion that we had, if that's okay, at the Planning Commission level tonight, because I think it might allay your concerns about the price tag. Commissioner Sandlin brought up the price tag from before, and we really looked at what, I think it was it 2000, when was the last?
2011.
2011.
We did not hire any outside consultant for that project.
And,
We used
well,
staff.
which one? He mentioned one, I think it was 20 years ago or
20
so?
years ago was the one that actually awarded.
And it was 80, Commissioner Comer spitballed that he thought it was around 80,000. So when we were talking about what the difference is between now and then and the amount of planning that's going to be going into this, it seemed at an appropriate price tag to think about $200,000. And that was, I think, amongst all of our commissioners, we seem to agree, as I'm looking at one. And we also talked about, one of the things that I think you're speaking to is, if we're going to do this investment, what is the feasibility of actually getting done the recommendations that they give to us, right? And what I think Ms. Samaniego could probably speak more to it, but it sounded like, and I looked into also some of the cities that had, because they gave us a list of cities, I'm sure you all saw that, and you could see which plans were enacted, what things were. Are they going to give us pie-in-the-sky things that are going to cost billions of dollars, not billions, but, a significant amount? Or are they going to give us things that we can actually bite off and chew and get to? And I felt comfortable with Ms. Samaniego's answer that yes, that's what they do, and based on the information I looked at the other cities, they do give you things that you can do so you can make a difference. I think that one of the things that impressed me the most with their proposal was the public engagement aspect. I think one of our things I hear from our community so often is how they just don't feel like, that they're getting involved and they don't know what's happening. And so to have that out there and to be so actively going into our community and all different things of the community, key leaders, elected officials and in the neighborhoods, it really does. It will make it actually something I think that the community will like, which I think is important. But they are going to go into the UGB, and we've been talking about stormwater, and there's a natural resources section that likely will look at stormwater as well. So I think that those are some of the things that we've all talked about here on the board that I wanted to make sure I asked that question about at the Planning Commission level, and they all more than satisfied me.
Let me also, excuse me just a moment, Barry. Alderman Marker, one of the things that we specifically put in the language that was presented to the board, didn't get it, we just had it, so it's not printed, but one of the things that we included in this agenda item was when we go back to Walker Collaborative to start negotiating contracts, that we be as specific as possible in identifying specific things that we'll be funding them to do. There's some vagueness in what they've done, but they've told us what they could do. Now we go back to them and tell them what we're going to pay them to do. And the biggest thing that's going to come out of their study is Alderman McGee, Blackland has said, is the community engagement. We're going to find out what the community wants this collaborative plan to be, not what some 7 people sitting around the table want it to be, but get engagement from the community for them to incorporate in the plan. So we feel very comfortable with the program manager that they presented. He was the star that we hired the police department contractor because of their program manager. And it turned out to be a really good decision. I think this is a case where if we get the right program manager, we can negotiate and get what we can pay for and what the citizens in our community actually want.
I'm looking forward to the public engagement as well. I know when the land use map was rezoned or reconfigured in the early 2000s, we're still feeling the consequence of that, where people are very confused and surprised by that, 20 years later. So I think this was an element that is sorely needed, and I'm very supportive of this.
Yes, Alderman Berry.
I think it goes without saying that this is really needed. Are they here tonight?
They're not.
I understand your comfort level, because you guys, they presented to you, they've talked to you.
They did not present to us.
Nobody has?
No, but they presented to the committee, right?
The source selection committee was interviewed two contractors, yes.
So you sat on the committee?
Yes.
This is, the price, the sticker shock a little bit. I know they range. I think you had said Murfreesboro spent 700,000-800,000. They're also
Right, that's what I said, not for
200,000 population.
And their plan included, where ours, the central piece is that future land use plan that'll come out of it. Their plan also included a master transportation plan and some other elements looking at.
It was a bigger project.
It was a bigger project with a bigger scope.
Bigger population.
And also they used out-of-town, a firm from Texas. So every out-of-town visit was about $3,000. One of the things that we looked at in looking at these 7 proposals, where we did weight those who are available locally as a way to try to keep the costs down. We don't want to spend all of our money on these travel expenses. We want to spend it on great graphics and a well-developed plan. I can certainly see that compared to a lot of improvement projects that we want to do in the community, you're probably weighing, well, 200,000 to get some project we want to get done, or 200,000 to do planning again. And I can certainly relate to that. I think that what I would say, though, is I keep thinking about and I'll probably get it wrong, I'll misquote it, but the quote that says, great places are intentional, right? They're planned. And that's what we're trying to do for Tullahoma. We're trying to look at how do we anticipate growing over the next 20 years, and then how are we going to provide for the needs of that population? How are we going to make sure that our economic development plan creates the jobs that they're going to need? How do we have the housing that they're looking for? What schools are we going to need? Do we have enough parkland? Do we have enough athletic fields for that growth? What does our transportation plan look like, and how do we maybe prioritize projects for where those growth areas are? So, and then there's the environmental aspects too to growth. So
I think all that's extremely important when you answer those questions. But there are, you've got cities 5 times our size in New York, in Texas, in the Austin suburbs, who did this for 130, 150,000. So it's not that it's not needed.
And also
I'm just uncomfortable saying there's a lot of what ifs. What are we getting? I'm a contractor.
Well, and I'll certainly fight to get the best cost that we can. I'll get it down as far as I can.
But I know as a contractor or consultant, if you say, hey, we got $200,000 to spend.
Right.
We're going to try to get all
one of the ways that we're at a detriment to some of the cities you just named is compare their staff to ours. We have one planner. So what we have to do is we can't rely internally to get these big projects done. we have to contract out and we have to pay for that labor.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge, is we're basically paying a staff of very senior professionals to do this plan over the next 10 months.
And
for
I'd
us.
kind of like to just wrap mine up here. I'm not saying that the 200,000's not. It shocked me a little bit. I really haven't had enough time to kind of digest the whole. I know that we did get it a little bit earlier, and I've been actively talking to planners that I know and people who've done this, but I just haven't gotten enough yet to be 100% comfortable. And I don't want to vote no to something this important.
Vote yes.
But I don't, but I also don't want to vote yes to something that I'm just not comfortable, and I don't feel that I have I don't have the enough knowledge. I don't have the knowledge that I need to make this decision. I don't have enough. And I would like to see, I would like more time.
Alderman Berry, the RFP has been on our website for a number of months. The Source Selection Committee has unanimously evaluated 7 proposals, gone through hours upon end of going through an evaluation process here. We selected 2 very highly qualified contractors, invited them in for personal interviews. Everyone on that Source Selection Committee sat in on those interviews. That Source Selection Committee unanimously selected Walker Collaborative. That group is very comfortable with with making this award, and it's very urgent, I think, for our community to get on with a development plan.
That group also
And-
doesn't have to put their name beside the 200,000, and they had time to talk and had the research and had I think maybe if that committee had come to the board and said, this is why we're doing this, this is exactly what we're getting out of this. I mean, we're kind of saying right now, here's the price tag, we're gonna negotiate what we're gonna get out of it
Yes.
after we've given the price tag.
We've not
So-
given them a price tag. They have not been given a price tag.
We're giving them,
We have been given Ms. Moody, we've been given a not to exceed to negotiate. We've not defined deliverables. We've gone to them to establish deliverables. So,
To choose them as a vendor, essentially, right?
essentially.
I'm not gonna make a motion to postpone because I don't know that there is support for it. I personally
I am
don't
gonna-
think that I have enough information. I don't want to vote no to this because I understand how important this is and how desperately we need this. But I also am just not gonna, I just can't put my name beside
Call to
something
question.
that I still have
Mayor.
questions about.
Ms. Dunn said call to question, though.
Need a second.
I put my hand up right before you said it. So, Mr. Mayor, I would really love to hear from a committee, from the chair of that committee, or from this group itself before I would pledge my support. So I am going to make a motion to postpone and invite that first.
Would you like to hear from the chair of that committee this
I would.
evening?
I would. Actually, that'd be great.
San Diego?
What specific question did you have, Mary Samaniego?
Yes. Okay, so it's my understanding you looked at 7 different groups. When they proposed to you, did they give you kind of right now you're asking, for us to budget for this and, not to exceed. On the 7 other groups, did they talk about costs?
No, we, during the RFP process, we specifically did not request cost. We wanted to see what their proposals were. So cost has never come up for discussion until the candidate was proposed for selection.
The cost should be number 1
it's
to me.
actually, if you're doing a qualifications-based selection, you can ask for cost, but it has to be in a separate sealed proposal. And you have to consider it after you've made your selection based on their qualifications. That's part of state purchasing. That's how we have to do it. The other thing is, I know you referred to Mary as the chair of the committee, but the selection committee also included, it was the mayor as the chair of this body, because ultimately you are setting the budget for the project. And I hope that you will by resolution adopt the ultimate plan. It is purely the planning commission's responsibility to do this plan, and they're the ones that will ultimately adopt it. We take the extra step to make sure that the board passes it by resolution in the end, because you have to fund the implementation and you're involved in it. We also included the chairman of the planning commission, Chad Grimes. We had myself, the community development director, Winston Brooks, Mary as senior planner, and then TUA's vice president over the water and wastewater systems, Scott Young, because obviously that infrastructure is a very important piece of our growth and development. And then the city's consulting engineer, Scott St. John. So that, just to be clear, that's who the committee was that reviewed all 7 proposals, shortlisted the final 3 who were interviewed in person, and then made this recommendation to the planning commission.
I had members of that committee reach out privately that I won't name that said that they did because they didn't want to put their name as a no on something, but had hoped that this board would at least have the conversations. And so I think that's kind of where I don't, we'll call it question.
Yeah, I think that if...
I'll make a motion to postpone.
A couple of requests that I would have is if we're postponing it to get more information, I need to hear specifically what information you don't have that you're wanting. And then the other thing I would say is that if you set a budget, then that gives me a target to negotiate with this vendor to get the cost down to, right? If I know I only have, currently we have budgeted $100,000. I don't think any of the 7 proposals will be able to get for that. But at least if you set a number, that gives me something to work towards and make some recommendations of what could be taken out of the plan to bring it within cost. And I think that's something that any vendor would say, tell us what your budget is and we'll give you.
I have a question. So you said that you knew going in that none of these vendors would be able to meet you're looking at $100,000. That was our initial, but you said none of the vendors would be able to meet the $100,000. How do you know that?
Yeah, because any number that I put in the budget, it's just like any other project that hasn't been out to bid yet. Until it goes to bid, you don't know what it's actually going to cost. So we put a number in there, knowing that we're going to have to adjust it by when we receive the actual costs.
But you can't, you really can't make that determination because you didn't talk costs with anybody. So
I do have an awareness of what engineering designs cost, what planning, other types of plans cost. We did a North Jackson streetscape plan just a couple years ago. And like I said, I've been doing this for 12 years, so I've been around a number of plans. Right. I think I make the best educated recommendations that I can to this board, but I need some clear direction from you all as well.
I want to know specifically what we would be paying for. Specific. See, the plans are for very different things that I'm looking on here. They're all over the place. They've done a lot of different planning for different projects. This is for a citywide comprehensive plan. And so I want to know specifically, I would like to see maybe a plan that they've done similar to this and what that costs. I think that, that might be available information to kind of know what we're looking at. And that's what I would like to know. So there's my motion to postpone.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to postpone and a second.
I'd like to make a comment, Mr. Mayor. The motion should be to postpone to a definite time. Otherwise, motion to just postpone indefinitely just kills it.
Yeah, okay. I want to thank you for that.
You need to state a time to which you want to post it, like the first meeting in May or something like that.
I think that that's enough time. The motion to postpone to the first meeting in May.
Is that your second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call a vote.
This is to postpone.
Motion is to postpone, and no is to kill the motion and
And to vote tonight.
voting is 5-2 to not postpone. Now I'll call the question for the agenda item. The award to Walker Collaborative. And that motion passes 6-2.
Wait,
5-2.
Excuse me, that motion passes 5-2. Yes, it's late, y'all. I couldn't do any better earlier either, did I? Agenda item number 2148, approve a 5-year master services and purchasing agreement for the Avion Axon for body-worn camera equipment and licensing in the amount of $22,823 for 1 year. And that's a total of $59,399 for a total of 5 years for the Tullahoma Police Department. Hear a
Move to
motion?
approve?
Second.
Motion to approve by Alderman Dunn and seconded by Alderman Blackwell. Any discussion? Not all vote with it.
there you go. Yep.
Everybody vote.
Everybody vote?
Yes, I voted.
All right, here we go.
Motion passed.
Barry.
Oh, voted.
All right.
Do it again.
I pushed it a couple times.
It's broken.
Everybody voted. Here we go.
There goes Rusty.
Motion passes 7-0.
Hey,
Okay.
that was 7-0, all right.
Okay, guess what? We still have another item. Item number 2146, to approve the scope of work for Rogers Group, project for $125,000 traffic study on Riley Creek, No Local Road. And that's the agenda item. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Alderman Blackwell, seconded by Alderman Dunn. Discussion.
Okay, so the reason that I pulled this, and we can make this very fast, but I am not comfortable with anything at this price being on a consent agenda. And so I want to make sure that we have dotted all of our i's and crossed all of our t's. This is with Rogers Group. Was this submitted out for a bid, this project?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So, and I can explain too why. I put it on the consent agenda thinking that if y'all will remember when we discussed the governor's local support grant money.
Yes.
One of the projects that we agreed to fund was this one.
Okay.
And so I agree with you, based on the amount, maybe I should have put it on regular, but I was thinking you've already kind of given the nod to allocate funding towards the project. Now we're selecting a contractor. The way that this bid came in, they bid the project while they held our annual paving contract. So over a year ago, they were our paving vendor, and we were under contract with them. They gave us this quote. Since that time, we rebid paving, we hired Wright Contracting, and so honoring that current contract, we went to Wright Paving, gave them the first option, can you do this project within our budget? And they could not, and they agreed to allow us to go back to Rogers Group. And they are honoring their price from over a year ago.
That's awesome.
Yes, so I very much appreciate.
Thank you for that information.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Call a vote.
Did you hit it 30 times?
Just make sure.
Congratulations. Congratulations, we got Gary's vote in. Okay. Yeah, that agenda item, that resolution passes. That was a consent agenda item number 2146 passes 7-0. Okay. Is everyone ready to adjourn?
Yes.
Into beer board.
Since there's no further business, we will adjourn the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, and we will go into beer board. First off, are there any public comments for the beer board? If not, we'll go to the consent agenda, and on the consent agenda, we have the minutes from the previous meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Approved by Alderman Blanchard, second by Alderman Dunn.
Oh, sure. Whatever.
Alderman Dunn, one of these ladies over here.
My voice is also like 100 times higher than hers.
What?
There's no other old business, so we'll go into the new business. There's a beer
We need to
out
vote, we didn't all vote
Let's vote.
for the consent agenda. Here we go, consent agenda
Doing
passed.
good. Okay, thank you. 7-0. There's no other old business. We'll go into the new businesses. Item number 21, Beer Board. Number 13, Beer Board application for a special event permit and in consideration of a request to waive a special event permit fee from South Jackson Civic Center for Ms. Colin Saunders to be the manager in charge of beer sales during an event for the benefit of horseplay at South Jackson Civic Center, 404 South Jackson Street on Saturday, May 22nd,
Move to approve.
2021.
Waive the fees.
Well, it's actually not South Jackson.
Oh.
It's the General Federation of Women's Club Centennial Women's Club.
At South Jackson.
At the thing, the location is out South Jackson. I just happened to be the one that had to fill everything out.
I'm sorry. I just read what they print.
It's okay.
I still say.
Thank you. We so much appreciate what you're doing
Still good.
for horseplay.
Right.
Thank you for doing that.
great-
Thank you for calling that to our attention.
It's a great place, and they do great work, so I'm really
We're looking
excited about
forward
the
to those-
fundraiser for
And
them.
those tickets are on sale?
Yes.
And those tickets are how much?
Oh, Tanya, she's our chairman.
Say that again?
How much?
How much are the
How much are
tickets?
the tickets?
The tickets are 2 for $100 or 1 for $60. And that is for entrance. They're going to have live music, and it's like a package with a picnic bag that's going to have dinner for 2, with a blanket and waters and a drink ticket for wine, beer, or soft drinks. And we're going to also sell additional wine, beer, and soft drinks at the event.
Dinner will be gourmet sandwiches, I understand.
Yes.
Very good.
Will there be picnic baskets for one, or do you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you for
motion?
being here. We've got a motion and a second.
Yes?
With
We'll vote.
Yes.
Please vote.
the waived fee, yes.
Yes. All right, pass.
Passes 75-0. Dear Board will adjourn.
Thank you.
Everyone have a delightful evening.
I'm gonna eat my arm.
Seriously, we need to
Submit.